join in over the next few minutes, but thank you everybody for coming along today. Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me clearly? Yeah, great. So this webinar is part of the This Girl Can campaign, which is running this week. But the idea, for those of you who don't know it, is that This Girl Can is all about, they've done a bunch of research that found that women are less physically active because they're scared of there's a fear of judgment about being active. So the campaign's all about providing different opportunities through classes or webinars or come and try events for women to come and try different things to help overcome that sort of barrier. So we're very lucky with this webinar today, and it's a great opportunity to learn about strength and endurance training and why it's important for women of all ages and how you can optimize your nutrition to be strong and healthy. So we're very lucky to have Claire, Giovanna and Ash with us to help address the popular myths surrounding training and nutrition. And so the format is that they'll speak for about 10 minutes each, so around 30 minutes in total, and then we'll do a Q&A at the end of it. And so if you have any questions throughout it, just pop them in the chat box and we'll get to it after they've done their presentations. But I'll just keep everybody on mute whilst they're presenting, just so it's a bit easier. So my name is Colette. I'm the Active Stonington Program Lead. So I'm not sure how many of you are aware of Active Stonington and may have tried some of the classes over lockdown, as Zena and I were just discussing in Ash, but we provide a range of opportunities and programs for people to try to get physically active. So at the moment we're running yoga, different webinars. There's still free online classes. So if you want to find out about anything more, you can go to our website, Active Stonington, or just email me and I can give you more information. But I'll introduce you, I'll just quickly read out the bios for each of our presenters. So Claire has 4 years personal training experience and is qualified remedial massage therapist. Hailing from the UK, Claire has been in Australia for just over 6 years, throughout which she has been a school teacher and led fitness programs at Harold Holt Rec Centre. Claire is an experienced marathon and triathlete, and Claire helps her clients reach their goals through holistic training. Then we have Giovanna. So Giovanna has been in the health and fitness industry for 7 years. She has worked with numerous athletes from various sports as a nutrition coach and also helps individuals with non-athletic needs. Giovanna has an undergraduate degree in health and nutrition science and a postgraduate degree in performance nutrition. Giovanna currently mentors clients looking to change their body composition and improve their health. And then Ash, so I'm just letting someone else in as well. Ash has over 12 years experience, first starting in the health and fitness industry as a group fitness instructor. Ash has a bachelor's degree in exercise and sports science and a master's degree in strength and conditioning. Ash is a passionate teacher of strength training, nutrition and group fitness, as he knows the life-changing impact being strong and fit can have. So I'm just going to hand over to Ash to begin the presentation.
Hello, everyone. Everyone can hear me. Great, thanks. I'm going to just share my screen with you here. Okay, so today I'm going to take the part on strength training. I'd like to tell you the importance of weight training for women at any age. I feel compelled to speak on this topic because it can be a subject that is often not spoken about, that women should be lifting weights, and women and girls at any age. So training promotes the strengthening of our muscles and also our tendons, our ligaments and our bones. By having more muscle mass, and when we exercise that muscle mass, we can control our sugar levels better and improve our body composition. So when we're weight training, we want to progressively increase the weight that we lift and the frequency of sessions that we do for weight training. And this will help make our body more robust. And today I want to tell you about examples of clients that I work with to show you how we do weight training. So this is Han. Han trains she is on a 6-week program, and she does twice per week with me. And here she's doing an exercise, which is a thruster with some dumbbells. I'll show you again. And then so the other ladies that I work with, I'll pop them up on here. Let's see if they load up. Here we go. Okay, so different levels. Here we got Kim showing us a split jerk. Bella showing us a push-up, a plyometric push-up using a band to help her. And then May doing a front squat and a push jerk. So we have a crew of different levels here, all different body shapes and sizes and different ages, with different goals. So Hannah, who you saw in the first video, she trains twice per week doing strength training. Kim trains, Kim, Bella and May all train throughout the week, most days of the week, doing strength training. You can see that there's different ways that we can do strength training or lift weights. Han was doing a thruster with some dumbbells at the start. You've got May and Kim here using barbells, and Bella, who's training the push-up to be explosive using the band. So let's go forwards. So the research shows that ladies can make the same strength gains as men through strength training. And this is made, so sometimes when we look at the research that includes, compares men and women in strength training, we see that they don't make adjustments for the body size, okay? But when we do make an adjustment for the body size, women and men make similar strength gains throughout their period of resistance training. So in the first graph here, we have a leg press. The second one, we've got a leg extension. And then the third graph, or graph C here, we've got a squat. And we can see that this group of participants were ladies from of the age of 20, and they did 2 sessions per week for 8 weeks. So 3 sets of 6 reps, and increasing those throughout that time, okay? So this is strength training just for general health. I would encourage you to start weight training early in life. It is safe for pre-adolescent girls to start strength training. Strength training during childhood is focused mainly on learning fundamental movements with the purpose of developing coordination, muscular control for later in life. These fundamental movements we'll recognize as jumping, running, agility, throwing, catching, and climbing. Practicing these movements in a progressive manner helps girls be ready for sport and continue exercise through later in their life. Through exposure of these fundamental movements, we can create confidence in movement later in life as well. So here we have my tennis young people. They train on a 4-week block. So every 4 weeks we change their program, and their goal is to be better at tennis. So we're trying to create explosiveness with their strength training. In this first video here, we've got Yolanda and Erin doing a box squat. And in the second video here, we have them doing a drop jump, with their goal being, as soon as they hit the floor, trying to be reactive and to jump off the floor as quick as they can, okay? If you think this is going to help them transfer producing force and this strength later into their tennis, on field. And we can see that the research shows this. So progressive strength training, this is increasing sets and reps throughout over a period of time. We can make better improvements in our jump height, how high we jump, better than just they're not changing the weights. Okay, so sometimes we might see in the gym that people will stay on one weight for the whole time of their whole gym career, be it for 10 years or more, but we want to constantly be increasing those weights and trying to make it more challenging for ourselves. And you can see that both strength training groups did better than the controlled group who only played tennis. Not only do we see that they improve their jump height, but over on the right-hand column, they increase their serve velocity. So this is using tennis kids, young ladies in this group, but this will be applicable to everyone of all ages. And we can see that also that over the 9 months time of training, that their body composition changed. So they lost body fat, and a lot more than what they did, if we're looking at the bottom part here, than the controls. Okay, so strength training as we get older, I believe, has even more benefits than when we were younger. It's I've had clients tell me that strength training is the elixir of youth. As we get older and our body begins to change, by adding strength training into our regime, we can help retain our muscle mass and even increase our muscle mass and improve our bone mineral density and the quality of our bones. This makes our body, again, more robust and more resilient. Here's a photograph of Linda. Linda has Parkinson's disease. And as part of someone who has Parkinson's disease, she has different control over her, or changing control over her neural system and over her muscles. When she strength trains, she finds that she has better control. And this makes sense because when we're doing strength training, squatting, pressing, we're able to control those muscles better. And we can see this also in the research. So this is a group of ladies who are osteosarcopenic. This means that they're losing bone mineral density and also losing muscle mass as a result of age. Through just 12 weeks of weight training, they have been able to increase their muscular strength, their skeletal muscle mass, decrease their body fat, and improve their bone mineral density. And we can see that you've got 1 set of 10 to 15 reps with 3 sets of 10 to 15 reps. If we do more volume of the weight training, we get a better result. Okay, and you can see that with the dotted line is the controls. The first line on top there is the 3 sets, with the second line being the 1 set. So, and here is the changes. So how do we get started? So we can start with, if this is an example program of someone starting for the very first time in the gym, after we may be trying to aim for 2 sessions per week, we're going to jump into the gym, warm up, maybe on a rower, elliptical, or cross trainer, then get started with 2 sets of 12 repetitions. So that means that we do the exercise 12 times, and then we'll do it 1 more time to make 2 sets. Okay, and these are simple exercises like the goblet squat, a chest press, a row, and a plank. And then from weeks 3 to 6, we can add another session in with some more variety of movements: kettlebell deadlift, an incline push-up, a shoulder press, and a side plank. Over the week, the way that we might plan our training is we might have weight training on the Monday and the Friday, with some cardio on the Tuesday and the Saturdays, and adding in a group class on the Wednesdays. And you'll also notice that I've included rest there on Thursdays and Sundays. From weeks 3 to 6, when we add more weight training in, we will rejig our schedule to make all of it fit. And now remember, I was saying that over time, we want to keep increasing the intensity, keep pushing the amount of weight that we're lifting. But when we do that, the amount of sets or the amount of volume we do decreases. So you can see here that with this wave line, as intensity increases over time, our volume will decrease. Okay, and another way to write that is, so we might be doing 3 sets of 12 reps at a moderate weight. And then over the next block of weeks, 3 sets of 8 at a moderate to heavy weight, 3 sets of 5 at a heavy weight, 5 sets of 2 at a very heavy weight, and then we take a rest and we repeat it all again. Something that I want you to really take away from this is that when we do weight training, we want to keep increasing the intensity. The weight that we start on should not be the weight that we're still using in 3 months' time. Okay, so in summary, weight training is for all women of every age. We should start early, but it's not too late to start. Weight training can increase sporting ability. We want to progressively increase the weight that we use and reduce the volume as we go over the weeks and months, and we want to have planned rest. So that is my part on strength training. I'm going to hand you now over to Claire.
Hey guys, sorry, my PowerPoint's not working, so we'll have to listen to me, I'm afraid. So yeah, endurance. So I've come obviously from marathon and triathlons and mainly half Ironman. So it's really important though, if you are training for something like that, it would probably be more beneficial for that strength side. But obviously, we're not everyone's going to run that distance. So endurance, you're sort of looking at that like 15 to 20 to 25 repetitions. And it actually is really good also for postmenopausal women. It helps with that muscle, it helps with cardiovascular system, helps with everything that goes on, because you're not smashing it out in like 4 or 5 minutes. You're actually going longer. So you're looking at going nice and steady, nice and slow, building up that muscle. So you're looking at 3 sets of 15 to 20, nice and steady, but then having a very short break. So you're not having a big long break, you're then going back into the next set and the next reps and keeping going, and then having them a bit of a longer break between each exercise. So it's really important as well that you look at where you are, and also as females at any age, is looking at how you feel. So over COVID, I did like a massive amount of research and study and upskilling on women in training. And a lot of it came out about going into training sessions with that mindset of where you are. So if you're in a really good headspace that you can lift heavy and go for longer, then do that. But then if you're going into a training session, whether it's the day one of your period, which is supposed to be the best time to strength train, or you're just like, I've not got this week, or not got this today, lower that resistance. Go into that training session going, I'm going to give 100%, but it's going to be at different, it might not be at that 90 kg weight or whatever, but it's 100% at that 30 kg weight. And come out of it feeling positive. You don't want to come out of any training session, especially an endurance one, which can go for quite a while because you are going for those longer reps and sets. And if you've got to do a full body workout, it can take an hour, maybe a bit longer. So coming out of it, you need to feel positive. And I think that's what I've taken from this lockdown as well, and from a lot more research, is not going into the gym, whether it be endurance, strength or whatever, going in with that mindset of like, oh, this is going to be like a punishment. You want to go into it feeling, I've got this. And that's where endurance is quite good, because you can go at a steady level. So you don't have to lift big weights. You just slowly build up that resistance, and it helps with so many of the systems, whether that's cardiovascular, your heart, your lungs, and also allows for those muscles to develop as well. So you can go for longer walks, or you can go for just being able to feed and move a little bit more and a little bit longer. So I think it's really important to know where you're at as well with endurance. And it's really important with endurance that you have those days off as well. So having training one day, having that 24, 48 hour break, and then going on to the next, and splitting the body groups up. So if you're doing body weight, which is perfectly fine because you can still do endurance with body weight exercises, you would just look for that 25 reps. Okay. And that's enough. You can do body weight endurance. You don't need to think, oh, I'm going to have to lift weights to do this endurance session. You don't. This all can be body weight resistant, body weight evidence. So yeah, so it's really important that when you're looking at what your goals are, I feel with endurance, is it to run a marathon? Is it to just actually be able to do 10k? Because that's the good thing with endurance, is that it doesn't, you think, oh, if I'm only going to need to do endurance for if I want to run a big long race or whatever. Endurance can help in so many other ways. So you can do that 5k, that 10k, and it's good to have that baseline of understanding of where you're at with your endurance. So yeah, I think coming from that, I think it's important to use all of it. You can complement strength with endurance. I wouldn't necessarily run both at the same, like probably Ash might be able to help. It's not, you don't want a conflict of interest. You either go endurance based or you go strength based. I think you can incorporate endurance with a bit of strength, because there's no harm in that, because everyone knows, you don't want to be able to not be able to go run for a bus or run for a longer distance or walk for a long distance. That's where endurance is really good for that, because it really works on those cardiovascular system to get that heart move going and those muscles working a lot more for a lot longer. So those times that you might be sitting and standing multiple times and things like that. But I think fundamentally where I'm going with this, with endurance as well, is that as women, I think it's important to listen to your body, listen to your mind with all of this training, and going into a training session knowing that what mood you're in. So rate your scale when you go in. If you go in and go, right, I'm feeling really, really good today, and that's where I'm going to hit. And do you know what? Then maybe that's when you do a strength session. If you go in going, I've not got this today, and lower it down. Let's do an endurance session. Let's go for those a little bit longer, get those endorphins going and get that positive thinking going. And then coming out feeling that little bit more positive about yourself. Because I think that's the main aim is with This Girl Can. It's about getting us all back into sport and keeping women in sport. And I think having a bit more of a enjoyment out of it, I think is really important. So picking, and whatever we choose, whether it be endurance, whether it be strength training, is going to help us. So there's no right or wrong. It's what actually works for you guys. I was, and I still am, an endurance athlete, and I love an endurance training session. Do I do probably too much endurance for what I do? Yes, I do need to get back into the strength training. I might be calling Ash, but it's where I love it. I think it's brilliant. It's where, and it's positive for me. I think that's what you've got to look at, the whole of this thing. And like, I can happily give you all the information about endurance training and be like, it's the best sport, but you guys have got to enjoy it as well. So just summarizing what endurance is, it's those longer repetitions, it's that longer time. So you just need to pick those big fundamental exercises, or even just those little ones that are the back extensions, or you can go for those deadlifts, but it is going for those 10 to 15, even going that 15 to 20 mark. And the weight's light. So don't think you've got to put on that hundreds of kilos or whatever. You actually could do a 6 kilo weight and go in and go, I can do 15. You might actually find that you get to 12 and go, I don't know if I've got, but you just persevere and just find that sweet spot for you guys is really important. So yeah, as we said, like, so big reps, but lower weight. So that might be where you're at, and use those big groups. You can do the walking lunges for 15, and you can do those isolation ones, which is really good. But it's, again, looking at those bigger, longer numbers and building up that heart rate and keeping and getting oxygen going and things like that. So I think, yeah, summarizing, it's those big numbers and lower weight, and keep it going and have a shorter break between each rep or each set, and then having a bigger break at the end of, once you've done 3 to 4 sets of those 15 to 20, or if you're doing body weight, the 20 to 25 mark. And then, yeah, and pick those muscle groups that kick in all of the muscles. So your back, your chest, your core, your push pull, and legs. Definitely gotta love the legs in activating the glutes. So yeah, so that's where I'm sort of taking this. I'm going to pass on to Javan, who's going to talk about nutrition.
Thank you, Claire. So thanks, Ash and Claire. So they've talked a little bit about the benefits of strength training and endurance training. And so I'm going to briefly take you through a basics of nutrition. How I wanted to plan it is I wanted to go through pretty much nutrition for body composition, for optimal body composition, but also nutrition for just nutrition for performance, and nutrition in general for our health and longevity. So obviously that's quite a big talk. In 10 minutes, we'll see how much I can fit in. But I'm going to share my PowerPoint presentation with you guys in a second, and I'll get into it. All right, can you guys see it? Yep, okay. All right, so as I mentioned, so I'm going to start with, so basically the presentation is going to be female nutrition. I'm going to start with our general metabolic demands, what basically energy is used for, what our optimal macronutrient ranges are. Then I'm going to go through a little bit of something that's called low energy availability, which is basically when we have when we have insufficient energy for our daily processes, which is, I think, really important, especially for young women that are participating in sports. And then just a little bit about macronutrients and micronutrients of importance for females. Okay, so firstly, I wanted to just briefly, although it's super basic, but I feel like it needs to be said. So the human body basically functions as an energy system. So what this means is it works on the basis of thermodynamics. Basically what we put into our body, we burn out as for our expenditure. So when energy in equals the energy that we're expending, we're basically in a homeostasis, which is a state where the body is in energy balance. So here on the left-hand side, if you see on this little picture, so we have that the calories that the body is creating basically come from protein, fats, and carbohydrate, and then the calories out basically will go on exercise, on our non-exercise daily activity expenditure, which is basically all the activity that you do during the day that is not your exercise. So it might be your walking to your work and walking from your work, or walking during the day, or just like fidgeting, talking with your hands, all that kind of stuff that basically isn't expended in your training. And then your active, your food thermogenesis, basically the body uses a little bit of energy to metabolize other nutrients. Okay. So what is energy used for, and why is homeostasis important? So energy is used, as I mentioned before, as a fuel, and it fuels basically a number of physiological processes. And it's probably crucial to understand that both low energy and excess energy states are detrimental to our health. Women in particular are sensitive to these matters because of our hormones, and it is very important for women to understand that both sufficient energy and sufficient carbohydrate are crucial for maintaining the hormonal balances and also maintaining just health overall. We're all really different, and I don't really know this particular audience and these women that I have here where they are in their training, in their lifestyle, but that's why I wanted to kind of briefly go through both. So both low energy and high energy states are detrimental. So again, for health and longevity here, I wanted to just mention that if a healthy body weight is maintained, then I'm going to go through what the acceptable caloric intake is and what optimal macro micronutrients are. And then I'm going to go through briefly if we don't have the weight, if we don't have the ideal weight, so how we can implement some interventions to achieve it. So basically body weight regulation. So here I am mentioning that body weight regulation should be brief. So it is an intervention. It's not something that we should be undertaking for longer periods of time. So if, for example, we think to ourselves that we would look better, we would feel better if we have, for example, 5 kilograms less. This means is let's plan out a program that's going to maybe go for 12 weeks in which we're going to lose this 5 kilograms. And then we need absolutely to go back to the state of sufficient calories. Why this is crucial is coming back to what I mentioned before, if we were to extend this intervention into longer, so if we were to extend this state of insufficient calories for a longer time, then all those negative metabolic adaptations occur. And then after a while, you come to this point where you have downregulated all the process in your body, and you physiologically cannot lose weight anymore, but also your performance is declining and overall health is impaired. So point is, be all end all point is interventions should only be acute and then coming back to a sufficient caloric intake. So energy balance, again, here's that slide from before, that the manipulation basically of our weight should be brief, but it can come from manipulating both our intake and our expenditure. So the guys were talking, so Ash and Claire were talking about the expenditure part. So if you are intaking the same amount of calories, you can basically get yourself to lose weight by exercising more, but also you can get yourself to exercise the same, but lose lessen the calories, so lose some of the intake that you currently have, and that will get you basically to the same point. So again, one slide about the importance of being in a proper energy and energetically sufficient state. So if intake is less than expenditure, I've written here that acutely it does lead to weight loss, but long term it leads to unhealthy consequences such as reduced basal metabolic rate, reproductive system shutdown, which is very important, hormonal dysregulation, chronic stress, mood dysregulation, and many more. These are just some of it. And then we have here, if caloric surplus is maintained chronically, then we're going to have both short and long-term weight gain, but also it can lead to dyslipidemia, it can lead to insulin resistance, and it can lead to a myriad of all inflammatory conditions that are very prevalent, unfortunately, in today's society. And then that comes back to what Ash and Claire were talking about. So strength training and both strength and endurance training really help with all these issues regarding, for example, insulin resistance and inflammatory conditions. So training really helps with all of that. Again, we're coming back to, I don't know what this particular audience, where they are with the training, but I wanted to mention that low energy availability, for anyone's interest, if anyone is going to have this presentation for the future, if you want to calculate your energy availability, it's basically your caloric intake minus what you expend in your training, and then just divided with your fat-free mass, and this gives you a number. If this number is less than 30, so it's 30 calories per kilogram, this means that you're in a low energy availability state, and this is the state that leads to all those negative consequences. So this is just if anyone is interested, but also the consequences are these ones that are written here on the slide. So yeah, energy availability in females, so clinical is 30 and optimal is over 45. Okay, so where do our calories come from? So basically they come from proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. Proteins give us 4 calories per gram, carbohydrate give us 4, and fat gives us 9. So why all macronutrients are important? So if we want to have a balanced diet, and we do want to have a balanced diet, we need to have at least 130 grams 130 grams of carbohydrate per day. This is by the recommendations of World Health Association and all nutrition bodies around the world. Why this is so is because red blood cells and our nervous system actually exclusively can use glucose, which comes from carbohydrate. So any diet that is chronically providing low carbohydrate intake will be detrimental for these two systems in our body. So 130 grams is a minimum. Coming to proteins, the importance of proteins, not only for building muscle, everyone thinks muscle, but essentially proteins build all the tissues in our body. So this means basically everything, your skin, your bone, your brains, your memory, everything is protein synthesis. So you do want to make sure that you're intaking sufficient, that your protein intake is sufficient to basically build everything that your body consists of. If you're training, this intake needs to be higher, because when we're training, what happens is we do get into a process that's called protein synthesis, but also by training, we also get into a process that's protein breakdown. So to combat this breakdown, we need to increase our protein intake so that we don't get into that negative protein intake. And also, I might want to mention here that as we're getting older, our demands for protein actually increase. So if we are past that 40 years of age, our protein intake really, if we are looking for optimizing our longevity, we do absolutely want to make sure that we are eating enough protein. What is enough? Enough would be around 1.2 grams if we are more on a sedentary, 1.2 kilogram per kilogram if we're sedentary, and then around 2 grams per kilogram if we are active. And basically, we want to make sure that in each meal, we have at least 20 to 30 grams of protein. And lastly, I'm taking you through dietary fats, the importance of dietary fats. So fat is important because the body actually uses fats from our diet to create hormones. So without fat, we cannot create our hormones, some of them. Then also fat is what carries our fat soluble vitamins, which are our A, E, D, K. If we have a low fat intake, then these vitamins don't get really absorbed. So we get deficient in these vitamins, and then again, our health, a lot of adverse health consequences might occur. Then also fat is important for blood clotting, wound healing, inflammation, muscle protein synthesis, and many more. And then lastly, what is the recommended intake for fat? So the lowest intake of fat should be 1 gram per kilogram. I know I'm speeding this really up, so it's hard to keep up, but like 1 gram per kilogram, basically, if you weigh 70 kilograms, you want to make sure that you have at the very least 70 grams of fat per day. And so basically that's it for this presentation today. But I can kind of like just draw like a couple of main points. So main point 1 is do make sure that your caloric intake is sufficient. If you want to lose weight or gain weight, do it acutely. 12 weeks, 3 months is a good intervention time, and then come back to whatever maintains your weight. Do make sure that you're eating enough carbohydrate, which is 130 grams per day, and make sure that your diet is balanced so that you have both carbohydrate, protein, and fats. And do make sure that you are eating protein in every meal, at least 20 grams per meal. That's it.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Ash, Claire, and Giovanna. That was very, very informative. We'll open it up to everybody. I might, Giovanna, do you mind just stopping sharing your screen?
Yep.
And we can see everybody potentially. But does anybody have any questions for Claire, Ash, or Giovanna? I might kick it off. Ash, I was curious. You said that the way of training is different for males to females, like an example of an exercise. I was wondering if you could provide an example of how an exercise might be slightly different.
You may have, let me clarify that then. It shouldn't be different. No, it's the same. It's the same. So if we divide the population up into 2 groups and we're saying males and females, really I'm going to, when a client comes to me, we're going to take them, like Claire was saying, from where they are. And it's really meeting them on their experience level of being at the gym or on what their sports background is and starting from there. Gender plays less of a role in it until we're getting into those more competitive levels. And when, because even in both genders, we would say, like, if someone's having a bad day or a stressful time at work, we should change the training program on that day to suit how they're feeling on that day.
Yeah, okay.
The clarification, I guess, was that men and women can make the same strength gains.
Mm-hmm. Okay, gotcha. No, that's good. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? These 3 fantastic speakers? No, that's all good. Azina?
Azina?
Yeah, I'll jump in then. So, okay, Ash, when it comes to strength training, so I've discovered I really don't like going to the gym on my own, even though like you can get set a program or anything. Are there other ways to incorporate strength training, kind of, other classes like circuits and things just as good, or what would you recommend for getting more strength training into your day?
Yes, I like the idea of being able to do circuits and some of the group classes that are specifically using weights. It's important that we continue to make the intensity more challenging over our life as we get, because our body is going to get used to it. I would say, out of enjoyment wise, maybe your program, we should look at your program to what you're doing in the gym, because it's totally okay to tell your fitness instructor or your personal trainer that this program is boring. I don't want to come in and do it because it's doing my head in. It's so boring. So that's the goal of your personal trainer or your fitness professional, is to make that more interesting for you. And that could be done with changing the program, but also making a program that you do with a friend, and incorporating those group classes too. I think I said in mine to stick with it for 3 months, because over that time is when you're going to see the most changes, over those 3 months. And that can also then re-regulate and help you become more motivated to continue with it.
Thank you. Wonderful, thank you. Were there any other questions?
Yeah, I'm actually interested, Ash. I used to do Pilates, studio Pilates, involving reformers and core strength and things like that. Can you give a bit of an idea about the similarities and differences between training in the gym and doing Pilates, and where there might be benefits or shortcomings in each? I mean, I guess I'm interested to know, well, should you exclusively do gym weight work in the gym, or is it enough to do Pilates, or do you actually need to do both?
I would have to say that firstly, expose my bias towards strength training. And I wonder if Giovanna or Claire could comment on this too. With one of the downsides, one of the benefits I see with Pilates is that it's full body, and it's working those smaller muscle groups and coordinating your whole body. One of the downsides I would see is that there's no impact in it. And because the weight is limited, then without having that continued progression, your bones and your muscles will only make certain amount of adaptations. I guess the thing with weight training is that we can continue to add those kilos or those grams on to progressively increase. What about Giovanna, Claire? Do you want to add to that?
Yeah, so I'm definitely with that. Like, I'm coming definitely from my position of like as a triathlete and as a marathon runner. Your tendons get weaker. As you get older, like muscles get a little bit weaker, tendons get a little bit weaker. You're really prone to injury. So getting that strength in, whether it be endurance, so like if you're doing a rehab exercise, the majority of the time we would give you that endurance-y kind of movement, like repetition, but then if those like over 30s Achilles, I'm hands up, I have like both Achilles have shot. My Achilles are like, but I'm now strength training, so I've got to get those tendons working and lifting the heavier weights and things like that. So it is really important that, I think, especially getting into sport or keeping up sport, and as we're looking at as a women's side of it, is that finding it that works for you. So yeah, I'll do yoga, I'll do a bit of everything, but I'll also find the time to get in the gym and try and keep it consistent. So yeah, I'm totally up for like using Pilates, using yoga, doing all of that. But I think, yeah, as like Ash said, it is fundamentally for, as we get older, for those tendons, those muscles, to add that resistance, and keep it going and stuff, as well as like as a therapist as well. It's what I'm forever going, oh, I can happily treat you and whatever, but I also want you to do strength work to try and get those tendons working. And you sadly can't get it from body weight, as you have to load it up. So I think it's finding what works for you guys, but I would say trying to incorporate as much as you can that ticks all the boxes. It's very much like nutrition kind of a thing. Like you want to eat all the food groups and you want to eat all the colors and you want to do all that. That's how this needs to be as well, where you sort of take in bits and pieces, but which makes it enjoyable is the fundamental part of it as well.
Great question. Any other questions?
Giovanna, Giovanna comes from a powerlifting background. Giovanna, do you have anything to add with like, because I guess Claire and I have spoken about one type of strength training or weight training. What would you say?
Yeah, well, the thing is, I completely agree with everything pretty much you've said, Ash. I think from my perspective, because I was a gymnast as well, so I feel like with coming back to DNIC, hope I pronounced that right. So Pilates is amazing for the core strength, for learning the body awareness, for learning how to move properly, for training the small muscles. I really think that Pilates is amazing. But those two things that both Ash and Claire have mentioned, there is no proper weight that you can periodize and overload. So, and that's the basis of how successful your training is. So the principle of overloading. So there is no way that you can structurally overload your Pilates training is number one. And number two, it's just, low impact. So it's not osteogenic. So there is no, especially as we're getting older, there is no stimulants for our bones and our tendons, as Claire mentioned. So those are pretty much the two downsides, but they're big downsides. So I think, and that's pretty much what science tells us, it can't be your only training. Like it's if like a perfect week, if you ask me, it would be two times per week doing something along those lines, like Pilates or yoga, to learn to move properly and get that strong core and body awareness. But then you just need to strength train, because that's where it's at, really.
It's interesting. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming along today. And as I mentioned, if you've got any questions, please feel free to email me and I can email it to Claire, Giovanna or Ash. And you can also visit the Active Stonnington website, which has the different programs and events that are on. And then we've got the free Zoom classes that are online still. So there's 7 of them running per week. So you can try, I think Pilates is online as well. So yeah, you can try a variety of activities. But yeah, thank you everybody for coming today. And thank you, Ash, and Giovanna. It was fantastic.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. See ya.
Thank you.